Welcome back to On the Road with Iona. Today I'm with Henry Byrne, who's come to have a chat with me about all things Scotty Cameron putting. And hopefully this piece of content is going to help you to understand more about how you can approach your own fitting and how you can approach all the options and selections that are out there when it comes to picking the right Scotty Cameron putter for you. So Henry, first of all, thank you very much for taking some time. I know we've done a quick fire with you in the past, which exists on Instagram, but today I wonder if you could go kind of broad top line how one would start their journey of picking a Scotty Cameron putter.
Okay, that is broad.
Yeah.
We'll start with aesthetic.
Okay.
I think in an ideal world you're going to use a putter that you like the look of, and our range is quite broad, from our Super Select line into Phantom, classic shapes in blades, high MOI mallets. So ideally you're trying to find something that you like the look of, but then ultimately it has to match up with your concept of your stroke.
For everyone out there, could you just clarify what does MOI mean?
MOI is moment of inertia, so that's the stability and forgiveness that's built into the putter inherently by its design. So generally what you see is as we go into the bigger footprints, we get a little bit more forgiveness on off-center strikes. On off-center strikes, which happens even to the best players in the world, we're going to get some sort of twist in the putter, which can affect the energy that's transferred into the golf ball, but it's also going to have an impact on direction. And with higher MOI, it helps to resist that.
Okay, so we're starting, first of all, very important, with how the putter looks. And it's okay, isn't it, Henry, to be drawn to something and have absolutely no reason for that. You might just like the look of something and you want to pick it up and have a little feel with it and think, yeah, I like the look of this, because putting is very visual.
It's visual and it's feel. And in an ideal world, as we talked about before, you're using a putter for a long time. In your case, you've got a putter for 5 years, and if you didn't like the look of it, that probably wouldn't be the case. Because I think if you don't particularly like the shape, the style, whatever the aesthetic of the putter, as soon as you have a bad day, you're going to start looking somewhere else.
Part of this video is about trying to uncomplicate the process of picking a putter, because I remember in my own personal journey, if I can draw on that experience, feeling quite overwhelmed at certain stages with all the options and the choices and, you know, all the kind of small nuances between one putter and another. And of course, there are so many options when it comes to putting, not just with the head itself, but how many degrees of loft are on the putter face, the length of the putter, the grip, etc, etc. So let's start down at the head. Once we've picked a putter that we like the look of, whether that's a blade or a mallet or maybe a square back, which is something I'm drawn towards, what degree of loft do you recommend as a good starting point for this sort of generic golfer?
Our standard loft is 3.5 degrees, and we've settled at that loft for a specific reason. We've had some of the best players in the world over decades come through the Scotty Cameron facility, and based on their delivery and how the ball then moves into roll, 3.5 degrees gives us that really good balance point. Now, if it's somebody that has a lot of shaft lean, or maybe their weight distribution is off, or their ball position gets off, they might benefit from more or less. And that's when you really need to speak to somebody, maybe your Scotty Cameron showcase partner can be a little bit more precise and specific when it comes to your loft requirement. But we start at 3.5 degrees, and we believe that fits the majority of golfers. Okay,
that's a really important number. If you're watching this video, I would really recommend that you get a piece of paper and a pen out, or make some notes on your phone, some of these key points with Henry. And hopefully by the end of this video, if you keep watching through to the end, you're going to be able to walk away with some really key numbers and thoughts and considerations that you can then take to your Scotty Cameron partner or your local shop to have as and hopefully assist you when you're making a selection of your very own putter. So based on what Henry's just said there, if you're somebody that thinks and recognises that address, you maybe have a bit of a forward press in your putting setup, you might want to consider and get some further advice about the degrees of loft you have on the face of the putter. Similarly, and to give some examples of that in the professional game, you've got Phil Mickelson, of course, you have Jordan Spieth, we were talking about a little bit earlier. Give us an example, Henry, of a putter who might do the opposite and have a kind of, rather than shaft lean, they might go the other way.
Yeah, we do encounter players like that as well, where the hands want to work back, and they're essentially adding loft to the putter. So your 3.5 degree putter might be 4.5, and that can hurt us in terms of the ball roll. There are some guys like Zach Johnson won the Open Championship
in St
Andrews, and he's a guy that is renowned for setting up with his hands just back of 90. The key for him is that he retains that relationship between in his left wrist, it doesn't break down or it doesn't flip at the ball. So what he sets up with is static loft at address, he returns it back dynamically, whereas with weekend golfers it might be more difficult to do that.
Right. Okay, so it's really important to have an awareness of how you set up to the ball. Are you someone who sets up very neutrally? Do you have a slight forward press, or perhaps you actually go the other way? So really important to check that. Something that I once heard, Henry, and I'd love it if you could either confirm or debunk this myth, is that during the winter, when the greens and the grass often become a little bit longer and the stimps become a bit slower, I once heard that it's helpful to have more loft on the putter, and perhaps you could change your address position or tweak your putter loft if you want to help the ball roll over the top of the grass. Is that true or not?
More loft can certainly help. On DP World, we've got quite a few players that carry two putters. They've got a backup. The backup could be different loft to their gamer. For that reason, if they're playing on slower greens or grainy greens, we certainly would prefer to adjust the loft on the putter to optimize roll rather than changing your ball position or changing your address, because that can have knock-on effect onto your eye line and your ability to see straight along your ball to target line.
Right. So would you recommend for the average weekend amateur golfer making any adjustments in the summer versus the winter to the degrees of loft that they have on the putter?
I think there's definitely an element to that. If you've got access to a loft line machine at your facility, I know some players that will bring out their Newport 2 when they get onto fast greens in the summertime, and they feel a little bit more comfortable using a bigger mallet like a Phantom, which might have a little bit more head weight in the winter time. And by all means, then we could order the Phantom. If that's going to be your winter putter, you can use that with more loft and then have a little bit less then on your blade for the summertime.
Okay, really good. I feel like we're covering some great ground here. I'm going to stick with the head because I'd like to now ask you some questions about the little weights that you often see in the toe and the heel of the putter. How do you select the correct weights for you, Henry?
Again, the weights that we've selected are pre-selected and have been we've come across that again from the massive database of players who've come through the facility, and we're always trying to hit a designated swing weight. So at 35 inches we have 10 gram weights, at 34 inches we got 15s, and at 33 we got 20s.
Right.
So as the putter's getting shorter, we're getting progressively heavier weights heel and toe, and that helps with stability as well, not just swing weight, but by having that weight focused heel and toe, it adds stability to the putter.
Would you recommend players that play in a windy environment? Let's say there's people out there watching that play a lot of links golf, perhaps you play your golf on the coast. Would you recommend that they have a heavier putter?
Not necessarily. Again, with golf being an individual sport, certainly some players might feel that a heavier putter can be less affected by the elements of the wind. But what we also need to consider is the players' individual tempo in which they swing the putter. Some people will walk fast, talk fast. Some people are very slow in their movements, and the putter needs to reflect that. It'd be a nightmare if I've got a very fast twitch player that does everything quick, and I ask him, all right, I need you to make a slow, rhythmical stroke. So the weight will have a bearing on that. So what we tend to do on tour is, if we're changing the length, we'll try to match up the swing weight. We can certainly, if we're on 10 gram weights, we can try with 15s, we can try with 5s, and see what bearing that has, both on the distance they achieve, but most importantly on the rhythm and tempo of the stroke.
Why do some players add lead tape to their putter?
On older models like Jordan Spieth's that we were looking at before, that doesn't come with weight ports, so you don't have the ability to change it. If we go shorter, we need to add weight to the head to maintain the balance and the swing weight. So lead tape can help with that. If you want to try and see if there's a benefit from you adding weight to help you on slower greens, for example, or in windy conditions, lead tape is a good way of doing that. That's not permanent, so you can simply strip the tape back off and it's back to your original gamer. What's
the difference between a putter face that has an insert versus one that doesn't?
That's a good question, and I'm going to give you a slightly tricky answer, but it depends on what material that insert is.
Okay.
Yeah, so on your putter, for example, you've got a 303 stainless steel body and you've got a beryllium insert, which is a little bit softer material, which gives you a little bit softer sound, a little bit softer feel. But what's important for us and important to you as a golfer is that with beryllium, you're still getting that feedback across the face. So when we were hitting putts, you were able to identify, I've hit that one a little bit off the toe, or I've hit that one a little bit off the heel. If we go to a very soft material, that all gets masked, and you can't feel it. So player feedback is really important to us. So if we've done putters with an insert or an inlay, we pay a lot of attention to what material is used there, because we do not want to reduce that feedback to the player.
Right. If somebody's getting their very first Scotty Cameron, and let's just say for the purpose of this video, they've got a mid-handicap, somewhere in the 15 handicap to 18 range. What would you think is more suitable for them? Would you say a putter with an insert or without?
Insert wouldn't be my primary consideration when I'm looking at a mid-handicap. I'm looking at their ability to strike the ball in the centre of the face. And if they struggle to hit the centre face, you're pretty much going to benefit from a higher MOI, so something in the Phantom line.
Right.
And as we move up in numbers from Phantom 5, 7, 9, 11, that MOI is gradually increasing and making it more forgiving.
Okay. Is there anything else about the head, Henry, that you feel I've missed?
Line configuration. As you're aware, some people are linear, some people non-linear. Some people need and like a line on the top of the putter. Some people, it's better for them to aim at if the line is at the back. On our current range of putters, we've got a really broad range. So we've got, on our Phantom 5 and 7, we've got dots on top. The reason for that is because some players can become obsessive with the line. They're trying to make sure you're super precise, and they get so intent on making the line square to their target line, they've actually forgotten about their speed or their target, and the instinct all goes away. As we move into our Phantom 9, we've got a dual line, which is like train tracks run into your hole, and for guys that are linear, that is brilliant, and that's been a big hit for us, the Phantom 9 and 9.5. And then as we progress up to the 11, Scotty has introduced this year an arrow alignment, and that's a blend of the two, where you have a long line that goes through the center of the putter, but an arrow at the top. It gives all the focus towards the front of the putter.
Right.
But again, what we're trying to do is make sure you don't get distracted by the line, and that you're able to be reactive and instinctive to your target.
What about the dot? Some people use a dot.
A dot works well for some players, again, that they're working primarily off the leading edge of the putter, and the dot just gives you a reference point to find center, because as we said, you want to hit the center of the face. If you miss center heel toe, it's going to cause twisting in the putter. So the dot is a good reference point to find center, but it doesn't really help you with alignment, so you're using then the leading edge. Okay,
that is so interesting. So again, I really hope you're taking notes here, but I'm someone that uses a line because I quite like things to be all lined up when I'm putting, but it's really worth experimenting with what you like. Do you like nothing there at all, so that you keep your mind nice and clear? Do you like a dot because you're aware of that kind of face of the putter, or do you like a line because you're more like me, where you really like to kind of get everything on the angles and sort of lined up before you take the putter away? So experiment perhaps with that a little bit, Henry. That's brilliant. Let's move on up the putter a little bit, starting at the neck, because the neck obviously is where we also find huge options, lots of variety, quite bamboozling.
It can be, and happy to shed some light on that.
Please.
So traditionally, our Newport 2 style putter comes with a plumber's neck. Plumber's neck is designed to give a one shaft offset. It's quite a square hosel, so it can help for players as a secondary alignment aid. But it introduces some level of toe hang in the putter, so the putter will want to arc and rotate, and it helps you to square the putter through impact. We have a jet neck, which is a very short slant neck, which Scotty devised working with Justin Thomas and players like that, where you can attach that to a mallet putter to give you a higher MOI and more stability and forgiveness, but with the toe hang, it's going to want to perform more like a blade, Newport 2. And then we've got our single bend shaft, which essentially creates face balance and makes the putter super stable. It wants to minimize arc and rotation and keep it very stable through the impact area.
Right, and that sounds very appealing, I'm sure, to many of you listening in, because stability and as much help as we can get on the greens is always very welcome. But it's probably worth, noting at this stage just how important it is to go and actually visually see the options in a shop near to you, if you can, to really understand what your eye prefers, because they do look awfully different when you set up to a plumber's neck to the jet neck. They are so different, and it can really affect how you feel over the putt. So the neck of the putter, lots of options again. You can see why it's so easy to get lost in all of this. In terms of the shaft, I know that we have steel and graphite options. Why do we have options there?
Player preference, primarily. We believe in the steel shaft that we offer. We've put a lot of work into that to ensure that it's got the right stiffness, the right flex, the right torque to give you that blend of feel. We talked about the feel and feedback off the face, and we don't want to lose that through the shaft. So the shaft needs to complement what we've done in the head, and we feel that we've done that with our steel shaft.
Great.
However, there has been more talk about putter shaft technology and graphite shafts. So there are a variety of offerings there which we supply to players on the DP World Tour. The main benefit is feel. In terms of dispersion, we're seeing not much impact across the board, and I think if there was a dramatic impact, you'd see more players using graphite. But it feels like that conversation is ongoing.
Okay, so that's something to consider with the shaft. Sounds like a really solid steel option is available. Now we can get to the grips, where again there is just a lot going on, plenty to choose from. Where would we start with a good putter grip?
A good putter grip, you want it to complement your style of putting. So for somebody that is a handsy putter, wants to maximize feel, a thinner grip like our Pistolini Plus, which we offer on Newport 2, works extremely well. As you start to work up into mid mallets, we're then moving into Pistolero Plus, so it's getting a little bit thicker to give you a little bit more stability. We keep coming back to stability. And then when we move into the Phantom line, then we're into our full contact grip, which is essentially a mid-size grip, but it's a rubber compound, so even in wet conditions it doesn't get slippy in your hands, but it pads out the grip and quietens down the hands, which complements the stability that we've designed into the putter head.
Right.
I think that's really important, and the benefit of that type of grip as well is that we're using the best possible materials to design the putter head, the best processes. We've talked about maximizing feedback, and the grip needs to enhance that as well.
Yeah, because this is the point where you actually connect with the club.
It's your only contact.
It is the only piece of contact. What sort of golfer uses a grip that has the flat face?
Flat face on the front, it can be used for players. There's a variety of grips on tour at the moment, and I'm sure if you go to your local golf club, on the practice green, there's a variety of grips, how people hold a club across all golfers. So with the flat front, it works well for people that have any sort of a claw grip, pencil grip, sharp edges to run the fingers along and give you that indication of working down your ball to target line.
Right. Some people use a counterbalance in the top of their grip, which is something I experimented with for a very short period of time. Why do people do that, and what can the benefit be of a counterbalance in the top of the putter grip?
Counterbalance is designed to control and stabilise the butt end of the putter, to essentially slow it down. You get some players that when they get to the top of the backswing, they want to drive the handle at the target, and in doing so it becomes difficult to square the face, it becomes difficult to control your speed. So if we insert a counterweight, it could be 20 grams to 50 grams that you put in the butt section. It essentially quietens down the butt and allows the head to swing. So it's like, if you can visualize a belly putter when it was anchored, and some players had success with that, essentially the butt section stays very quiet.
Wow.
And counterbalance is like a watered down version of doing that within the rules of golf.
That's really interesting. I didn't actually fully understand or appreciate why people do use a counterbalance. So perhaps it would be useful for players who feel they need a little bit more smoothness and calmness in their stroke.
Absolutely, and it's for that reason we've re-released a couple of longer models on our range. So we have a Squareback 2 long, and we've got a Phantom 11 long, which are just designed at 38 inches. They can be customized a little bit longer or shorter, but they've got weight in the shaft and in the grip that moves the balance point and makes them perform like a counterbalance putter.
Really, really cool. I think this is the final question I have for you, Henry, and it's regards to the length of the overall putter. I have a 34-inch putter, I'm 5'7". What should people go for in terms of the length of the putter?
Length of the putter is essential in terms of controlling the athleticism of your setup, your posture, your eye line. The eye line then can dictate the arc and path of your stroke. So that's one of our first reference points. We're always trying to get the length correct. You're trying to get the eyes over the neck of the putter, or between the golf ball and the neck. And while in an athletic position with pretty straight lines, you're trying to get in a situation where the spine angle is relatively straight, and that allows the spine to work around that fixed point. If we get too short in length, it can get slouched over it, and the stroke can become very handsy. If we get too long in the putter, it pushes us too far away from the golf ball, and then the arc becomes too aggressive and becomes difficult to square the face.
Right, there you have it. Henry, thank you so much. Really hope you've enjoyed this quick fast fire video with Henry, who spends a lot of time out on tour with some of the very best putters in the world. So Henry, huge thanks for your time. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to see more. Leave a comment below any further questions that maybe we've missed that we can cover next time around that we come back to see Henry here at the Scotty Cameron Putting Barn. Thank you so much. See you next time.